Hello, everyone, and welcome along to the TurfCast podcast pre-game show with me, of course, Joe from TurfCast, and joining us this week from Seagulls Social, it's Maz. How you doing, mate? You all right?
I'm very well, thanks. How are you, mate?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you, mate. Thanks for coming on.
No worries, my pleasure, my pleasure. I mean, it's always nice to sort of get off our podcast and come into someone else's and have the questions at me rather than me giving them. So it's a nice little change.
Are you prepared for lockdown? Because obviously at the time of recording this, we're recording this on Wednesday night. So lockdown starts tomorrow morning, isn't it, I think?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So are you prepared for lockdown?
Well, it depends what you define as prepared, I suppose. I've had a mental breakdown because I've cut off all my hair. I don't know if anyone...
Full Britney Spears.
Yeah, I've done a full Britney. Oops, I did it again. And no, it was it's a bit of one of those sort of weird moments, isn't it? I mean, we're all going through it, so we're all experiencing it. But no, I think what the good thing is, I find solace in, we've done it before, the first lockdown. We know what to expect. It was the unknown before, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Which sort of threw you off. Whereas now we know what to expect, and we've got our own coping mechanisms. We can, go for runs, whatever it might be, or play Warzone, whatever you're into.
And I was just saying that off air. Of course, you've not just guessed that I play Warzone. I was just telling Maz off air that I am one of them that plays on it pretty much every night, depending how much the missus lets me, which is every other night, really. I tend to get, if I'm on it every other night, I get a bit of shit.
Once a week.
Every other night. In her dreams, mate, once a week, yeah. But I tend to go every other night. And as I was saying to Maz, I am still shit. Simon's your man if you want someone to be good. But in terms of lockdown, it's one of them though, isn't it? Like, this one's not even as strict. Last time, I was just telling you off air, like last time I worked for William Hill and I wasn't allowed to go in, so I wasn't working. So I'd leave the house about once every week just to go to Tesco or something like that. Whereas this time, I'm still all right. I work from home now, but I'm still going to be working, so that's good. And it tends to be a lot more shops open this time and stuff, so I don't feel it's as strict. So I feel like people will be going out more.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I think we've got to a stage now where people I don't condone it, but people are, revolting and not sticking to the rules, and they're a bit like, fuck this, like we're just, there's no point really anymore, and people have just sort of gone over it, which is a bit messed up. But I mean, yeah, it's definitely not going to be the same as last time. I don't think it's not going to be as strict. Going for a run, going to the shops is going to feel like an absolute luxury, isn't it? So can't wait.
Yeah. It's one of them. I'm not. Last time, like you say, it was the unknown. I was a little bit worried. Last time it was sunny and stuff, though. Is this time it might be sunny down in Brighton, but I know up in Burnley it's been pissing it down for the last week.
No, you're right. I mean, you're spot on. I think that's going to be an absolute killer, isn't it? It's absolute. I think the other day it was absolutely pissing it down, and it was horrible. Yeah. It was freezing. It was cold. It was gloomy, and you're just like, fuck's sake. Like, at least have some sun, and it would be nice if it was a bit better weather. But yeah, it's not ideal, is it? But we go on, John. We're not going to let it defeat us, are we? We're not going to
definitely not. We move as the kids say,
as the young kids say,
as they say on Twitter, we feast or whatever. We move. But anyway, let's get on to whatever they all say it. Yeah. I don't even know what it means. But anyway, let's move on to the game then. Every other fan of every other club in the Premier League will be looking at this with Burnley, Brighton, what a load of crap. But it means a lot to us, especially Burnley fans at the minute. Bottom of the league, not doing very well. However, I was looking at the league table, and I was just saying this to a little bit to you off air. I was looking at the league table, and in my head, obviously, I've not paid too much attention to Brighton, as much as Burnley.
I don't blame you for that.
In my head, I was Brighton are having a good season. It's going to be a very, very tough game. And I looked at the league table, the Premier League table, just saying, and you were 16th, and I was like, what?
Yeah.
I thought you'd be like 9th, 10th, because I think what it was, you had that really impressive win at Newcastle, I think it were, earlier in the season. And I've just switched off since then. And I've come back to it now. I'm like, they've not won since. They've beaten Newcastle. Not won. So you haven't won at home. You haven't won since that game. I don't think it was the first game of the season, though, was it? Or was it?
It was the second or third, I believe.
Obviously, it's one more win than us. But however, that's the point is, I thought you were going to be doing really well, but you're not doing as well as I thought you were doing. But what are your thoughts? Obviously, you know more about Brighton than me. What are your thoughts on your season so far?
Yes, I mean, I think you've pretty much hit the nail on the head. It's a lot of style, but not much substance. I think that's the best way to describe us at the moment. So we look pretty. A lot of teams, like you said, a lot of fans presume we're this amazing, not amazing team. That's kind of a step too far. But we're a good footballing team. We look good and we play really well under Potter and all that sort of stuff. He's revolutionised everything. But really, in actual truth, we can't finish. We can't score goals. And apparently, this amazing defence we've got with Lewis Dunk, Ben White, Webster, Matty Ryan in goal. This apparently solid back line hasn't been very solid at all. So it's been a very confusing time for us Brighton fans, because we look at the team sheet and we think, okay, really good team. Individually, like I said, you got Dunk, White, Mopai up top, Basuma in the midfield. You look at all these individual players and they're great. And, we do play good football, but we're not getting results and we're not scoring goals and we're conceding goals. So it's just very frustrating as a Brighton fan to see, we've got all this potential and all these fans, we all think, oh, it's going to be great, but we don't actually convert into points and goals. So yeah, that's pretty much at the moment. It's just very much looking good, but not actually doing anything with it.
Yeah, it sounds like the opposite of us last season then. Like, people would see us and they think, Burnley, this shit. But we'd ground out results every single week last 100%. Season, obviously finishing 10th in the end. It just sounds like you're sort of like the opposite to us last season.
Yeah, really. No, definitely. And I think we were talking, so obviously on our podcast, we were previewing the Burnley game, and we were talking about, like, fair play to Burnley, because to you guys, because it's, you might not get the best rep at best of times. People say that you don't play great football, or you don't look easy on the eye, and you get quite a bad rep in that respect. But I think that it proves by the results last year. Sean Dyche getting you into Europe and getting results. At the end of the day, it's a results game. You might not play the prettiest football in the world, but you still get results, and that's what you need. And if you want to stay in the Premier League, you need to get results, and it's just simple as that, really.
Yeah, well, that brings me on perfectly to a question I was saving until later on, but it's, like I said, it's just come on perfectly. Like, talk to me about Graham Potter then, because obviously I remember at the time when he come in, it was the start of last season, wasn't it?
Yes,
start of last season, yeah. I remember at the time thinking, they've got rid of Houghton and got somebody in. Obviously, we're at the Swedish, Scandinavian team. I can't remember who they were. Who were it again?
Östersunds.
That's it. Yeah, I remember thinking, he's done well there. Fair play to him. But he's coming in, and all of a sudden you've got a Premier League manager without any Premier League experience.
Well,
and I remember thinking,
he was actually at Swansea. Yeah, he was actually at Swansea as well. So he went.
Yeah, he was, but he didn't do that well at Swansea, did he?
No, he was there for half a season. So he was there for like half a year, and it was when I think he had Dan James under him as well. So I don't think he had like the best. Well, he didn't have that much time, but he done all right with them. He didn't do amazingly. But yeah, and then he went from Swansea to us.
Yeah, that's it. But yeah, I remember at the time thinking, hold on, they could end up going down here, but you didn't. And I think last season you had your highest ever points tally in not even just the Premier League, like the top level English football ever. Obviously, let's not mention that. Let's not mention that. So I remember at the time thinking, they're going to struggle, but fair play to him, he did well. However, but he's exactly the opposite of Chris Houghton, isn't he? Like, obviously, like you're saying a lot of style but no substance, whereas with Chris Houghton, there was not much style but quite a bit of substance. So talk to me about the differences between them two then.
Yeah, no, I think, again, you've sort of hit the nail on the head. There's not much more to elaborate, but I'll try my best. So with Potter, of course, he's got a very attacking brand of football. He loves, that tick-attack kind of approach. He loves passing it around, starting from the back, having a ball-playing goalkeeper and ball-playing defenders is very key to him. He plays really attractive football. It's very sort of the new gen, so to speak, sort of type of football. It's not just lump it up the field, unlike some teams. I'm joking. It's just very refreshing as a Brighton fan comparison to Houghton, where he was very much more all about structure, making sure we kept clean sheets, and just basically frustrating the other teams and maybe hitting them on the counter, or just grabbing that 1-0 goal, or whatever it might have been. Whereas with Potter, at least, let's say we're 1-0 up, most of the time, like you saw at Newcastle this season, it's not just a 1-0 scraping a 1-0 win. We will go for 2 or 3 under Potter, and I think that's the big differences that I've picked up. And it's just I'd much rather us play well and lose maybe that. Whereas with Houghton, we were still losing and playing shit. So I was a bit like, I'd rather play well and lose than look shit and lose.
Yeah, well, you can't really knock it at the minute, can you? Because like I say, last season you did well. You had like I say, your highest ever points tally. Not the best of starts this season, but I can't really say much at the minute. To be fair, obviously we're bottom of the league. But that brings me on to sort of like us, and I want to ask you like your perspective on our season so far. Not necessarily on Burnley as a whole. But on our season so far, because obviously we are bottom of the league, and it's interesting that I talked to some fans, well, when I talk to them, the majority of fans on this show will say something like, well, I think you've been a little bit unlucky. You probably will come good, but you never know. It could be your time sort of thing. However, a lot of fans on Twitter, because, they're hiding behind like, a picture of a footballer and call themselves like Magnificent Morphe or whatever, are saying things like, it's Burnley.
I feel personally attacked.
Is that your Twitter handle? I thought it was. And then a lot of them are like, it's time they went. It's time they went. So what's your sort of like your perspective on our season so far?
Yeah, I think this season, I'll be honest. So I was very surprised how badly you're doing at the moment. Like, under Sean Dyche, I feel like he's a great manager, and I feel like he's definitely underachieving at the moment. But then at the same time, in saying that, sort of going back on what I've just said, it doesn't come as a surprise, as harsh as that may sound. Like, I just feel like, I don't know, just looking at your team, this is just from an outside perspective, just looking at your team personally, like just from, again, I can't sit here and say I watch every one of your games, that would be lying, but from the games I've seen, there's only like a couple of players that stand out to me. And again, that's just maybe my naivety, but for example, like so Tarkowski, and your boys up front, Wood and Barnes, and then maybe, me, oh no, of course, and the goalkeeper, of course, I can't Pope, of course, he's been incredible. So, those 3 or 4 players you have got, but then I look at the rest of the squad and I think, what else do Burnley have within the rest of the squad? And again, I could be completely off the mark. You watch them week in, week out, so you've got a much better understanding. But just from an outside perspective, I look at the squad and think, okay, apart from those 3 or 4 players, who else is contributing or who else can get them points? And that's just my take on it. It could be way off the mark, and I'm sure I'll get a lot of backlash from the Burnley fans. But and I think you are underachieving. I feel I don't see you being relegated, but I don't think you're strong enough to maybe hit the heights of Europe like you did in the past. And it's it's a shame because you're a very likable club. I've got nothing against Burnley. Apart from the banner, which we won't go into, but again, that's a very small pocket of fans.
Burnley fans hate, well-minded Burnley fans hate that banner, to be fair, mate. So,
of course.
It's one of them, like, even I got a lot of shit at the time because I put something condemning the banner on Facebook. So I got loads of shit on Facebook about it. Personally, I had to sort of like mute a few people and stuff, but it is what it is. But it is. I even went on Radio 5 and condemned it. And so I did get a bit of stick. But yeah, it's one of them. It's just every fan has their idiots. It's just a shame. It's just a shame I was quite vocal.
They decided to get a plane to go.
What are you doing? But yeah, it is. But it's interesting that you missed out Dwight McNeil there, because this to me is exactly why people don't rate people like Dwight McNeil and Ashley Westwood and Josh Brownell and Johan Berg Gudmundsson as highly as what they should do, because of our style, because we're a defensive sort of style, or I like to say compact, because what we do is we get the 2 banks back and compact them to force the wingers out wide, knowing that when they cross the ball in, that we've got Tarky and Ben Mee to clean it up in the air, because that's where we're strong. However, this season we haven't done very well. But if you watch Dwight McNeil on, I'm going to say Saturday, then on Friday, you will see just he is an absolutely class act, is that lad. But I think he will do a lot better in a side that goes forward a bit more. So that is interesting. But I think that is more about our style rather than our players.
Definitely. No, definitely, and I think that's the beauty of what Sean Dyche does. Well, when you guys are playing well, is that he knows his strengths, and he knows what players suit his formations, and he knows how to get the best out of them. And massive credit to him. When things are going well, it's great, but obviously when things aren't going well, it's the same with Potter. He's getting a lot of stick at the moment, but I respect him for making big decisions. He made 2 big calls for our game against Spurs. He dropped our goalkeeper, who's played every game, I think, for the last 2 years, dropped him and dropped Neil Mopai because of because of an off-field incident. So he made some big calls, and I really fully respect him for it because a lot of managers would shy away and maybe just stick to what they know.
Yeah.
Whereas I feel like with him, he's actually giving a different sort of dynamic to the team by making these bold decisions. So yeah, it's just very refreshing to see. And I love both managers, to be fair, but both the Burnley and obviously ours as well. So yeah.
Well, that again brings me on perfectly to another question.
Oh, look at that! I'm teeing you up here, mate. I'm just assisting you.
Scripted. It's like it's scripted. Morpay, what's happened with him then? Because I saw it on social media. Now this might just be a load of bollocks, but I saw it on social media about that Potter had said that his ego had got too inflated. But now you're saying it's an off the field incident. So what's actually gone on with Neil Morpay?
Yeah, so the first story that went out, and I think it was the Mail, the Daily Mail might have done it, and they reported on an inflated ego was the words they used, and that, funny enough, broke on the same day. We had Andy Naylor, who works for the Athletic, and he's the Brighton correspondent, so he's got all the inside information, etc. And funny enough, off air we had a little chat. I can't disclose too much, but he said, just wait until the full story comes out. So we were like, okay, so there must be more to it, because we were all a bit bemused as to why he was dropped. And I think Potter came out after the game saying it was due to tactical reasons, and we were all a bit like, okay. I mean, he's our only out-and-out striker that's playing at the moment. I don't really understand the whole logic behind it, and the fact we have Welbeck and Shaqiri on the bench. Anyway, I digress. Yeah, so it was very, very strange. And, Andy knows, all right, just wait until you hear. And then today it came out that, he had a heated moment after the West Brom game with another player in the changing room. So they basically had a spat in the changing room. Yeah. He, got heated. And then, he just rested him and he's back in the squad for Burnley. So it's all been resolved. It's all been swept under the carpet. And he's ready to go, apparently. So
that's a shame, isn't it? That's a big shame that he's back. Yeah. That we're going to be our next question. Is he back? Unfortunately, he is.
He is. Yeah. So he's back in the squad for Friday.
Well, happy news for you. Bad news for us.
But not necessarily though, because he's actually not been that great, to be honest with you. He's missed a lot.
It's one of them. Like, we were interested in him, and obviously he ended up going to you boys. I don't know how serious our interests were or not, because we just don't spend any fucking money. But that's another
it's a whole other podcast.
Yeah, so it's interesting to watch him. I remember watching last season, thinking, "Oh, it's a shame we missed out on him. It'd have been decent." But all our strikers are pretty much exactly the same, apart from Vidra. But another player I want to talk about is Lamptey. Now, I'll be honest, I'd never heard of Lamptey until you boys signed him, but he's done very well, hasn't he? Now he's a right back, isn't it?
Yes, right wing back or right back. We signed him from Chelsea, I believe, for like 1.5 million or 4.5. Something. It was ridiculously low in the current climate, anyway. Yeah. So it's an absolute steal, and he's an incredible player. I can elaborate. I could go on all day, to be honest with you.
I'm going to say I've not actually sat down and watched a full Brighton game this season, but I've seen clips of Lamptey, and he does look good. He looks good defensively. It looks good going forward. He's got a decent cross on him. So and we're crying out for a right back at the minute, man. I love Matthew Lawton. He's been at this club for absolute years. I've had him on the podcast. I've interviewed him. He's a really nice guy. But I do think he's the wrong side of 30 now. So I would like to have somebody coming in like Lamptey at that sort of age, who can learn from sort of like Loughton and Bordeaux and then sort of like progress their game. But it's good to see that them sort of players are out there. But hopefully,
definitely
for whatever reason. Sorry, go on.
No, that's right. And he's got a lot to learn. Don't get me wrong. He's not the finished article by any stretch of the imagination, but he's an incredible player. He's got the raw potential that you just know he's going to go places. So we'd be happy to have him for 2 years if we can hold on for him for that long. But no, he's still especially against Crystal Palace and West Brom. He didn't do that well, to be honest with you. He was very stifled. And I think slowly Premier League defenders and wingers are starting to work him out a little bit, because I'll be honest with you, he's a bit of a sort of touch and go merchant. He'll just whack it past you, sprint past you, and then cross it in at the best of times. But don't get me wrong, like, there's so much more to his game. But I feel like he relies on his pace a lot at the moment. And I feel like once those defenders and wingers are basically work him out, that's his sort of go-to tactic, that they're very easily able to sort of close him down, like Mitchell did for Palace. The left back had him in his pocket pretty much the whole game. But then against Newcastle he was incredible, like absolutely amazing. And then it was our last game as well against Spurs. He obviously scored the goal and played really well. So he's still. I want him to be a bit more consistent, but he's an incredible talent. And I mean, but any Burnley fan I think would love to have him in their team, I think.
Yeah, like I said, I've seen clips of him. He's absolutely class. But let's have a look at. Let's move on to the actual game then.
Yep.
Friday, 5:30 on pay-per-view TV. Unfortunately,
yeah, which I think is going to be an all-time low numbers.
I don't know, mate. Burnley West Brom are probably worse than that.
Yeah.
But it's you know what annoys me the most about this pay-per-view thing is not the fact that they charge £15, which is scandalous. It should be about £5, or pay a monthly subscription to the Premier League at around £15 a month. Bit like you saying you're into your NBA off air and stuff. Bit like your NBA, your NFL. Do something like that.
Yeah, no, I was about to say do like a Premier League pass, which is cost you
exactly
like a Netflix type subscription. I think that's
exactly. Honestly, I'd pay a lot of money for that. Even if it were like 25 a month, I'd be like, yeah, no, Lizzie, that's my missus, by the way. We have to have that 100%.
Yeah, no, 100%. Yeah,
but that's not what annoys me the most. What annoys me the most is how late they reschedule the games. I booked all my shifts at work this week. Now, as a freelancer, what I do is I send my availability in to my employers or the people that are paying me and just say, look, I'm available these days. I put down I was available every single day that week apart from Saturday. I'm like, right, Burnley Brighton, I'll do a live watch along, which is what we do on TurfCast. And then I'll do a live pre-game show, which obviously now I'm having to pre-record, and watch Burnley. Hopefully get the first win of the Premier League season. If not, I can have a rant on air and stuff like I've been doing. But then they changed it. So now I'm at work, which means there probably won't be a live. Well, in fact, there definitely won't be a live watch along later on today, which is a shame. Yeah, so it's a killer. That's what annoys me the most. But anyway, let's get on to the game. What is your predicted lineup? Because, of course, I want to know about any injuries, things like that. Any Mope's obviously back. We've discussed that.
Yeah, so Mope's back. So Solly March, our left wing back, he's got a knock, I believe, because he went off injured against Spurs, so he's a potential doubt. And he's played actually really, really well. He's actually been one of our better performers, which is, if you told me that last year, I would have laughed in your face because he was bang average last year. But no, he's been really, really good this season. So that could be potentially a big miss for us down your right side. You might have a bit of joy. Who plays right wing for you guys now?
It depends. Sometimes you'll see Dwight McNeil there, which, hearing that, I'm hoping that Dicey might stick him out there. But the thing is with Dwight, he's best on his left. Tell you what, another thing actually I want to get onto, which I'll talk to you about later, is he sometimes sticks Josh Brownhill out wide to accommodate Dale Stevens in the middle.
City guy? Is he the
Yeah. But that's to accommodate Dale Stevens in the middle. However, I prefer if we had Josh Brownhill in the middle and Dale Stevens on the bench. And then Johan Berg Gudmundsson often plays right wing, but he had a knock against Chelsea. Fingers crossed he's back, because if you have, I don't know, someone who's not very good at left wing back, and he could have some joy. So fingers crossed for that.
Yeah. So that'll be an interesting little matchup. If he doesn't recover, that will be quite a big blow for us. And then of course, Neil Mope's back, and then I'm trying to think who else potentially might be missing. Oh, and of course Matty Ryan. So the big sort of debate now within the Brighton community is who's going to start in goal, because obviously Matty Ryan was dropped for the last game, and Potter said it was just for giving him a breather apparently. So again, I don't know how much I trust Potter now after he said about the whole Mopai incident. So it might all be mind games. But yeah, so that'll be interesting. So it's either going to be Robert Sanchez, who's a young goalkeeper. I think he's 23. And he's out on loan to Rochdale, I believe, last season. He's playing like League 2, League 1 football, and now he's been chucked in the deep end against Spurs. So and he actually played really well. Fair play to the lad. He done really well. And goals weren't his fault or anything like that. He's good with his feet. So to be honest with you, either one who starts, I'll actually be quite happy with. But I'd like to see Sanchez in goal. So yeah, apart from that, I think we're pretty much fit and healthy and ready to go. To be honest, mate. So should be a very interesting game. How about you guys? Have you got any big players?
Well, we've had a ridiculous list of injuries, which, in my opinion, is why we are where we are. Now, a lot of people, I don't know if you've seen it in the news and stuff, obviously, I presume you don't pay too much attention to Burnley Football Club news, but there's been a lot of rumours. There's been a lot of rumours about a potential takeover at the club and things like that.
Funny enough, actually, for work, I did a tweet about Sean Dyche, with the Thanos meme.
With
Sean Dyche.
I saw that as well. I did see that as well. Obviously, you were telling me up there that you work for Odds Bible and stuff.
Yes,
I did actually see that.
I did actually do a meme about your potential takeover, which is actually quite interesting because, if you guys get taken over, you never know. Mbappe, Messi, they could all be making their way to Burnley.
I won't go that far, but a signing, just someone from the Championship. I'd take that at the minute.
Just anyone.
Yeah, because our only signing this season was obviously Dale Stephens, which I do want to get onto.
Yes,
I've totally forgot about that.
Yeah.
I didn't even make a note about him. That's how
scandalous.
Yeah, I know,
what a player he is, eh? Hey.
We'll get on to that. But yeah, I think we've had a long list of injuries, and now Tarky came back from his mysterious toe injury as soon as Leicester cooled their interest, funnily enough. Then he came back from his toe injury. Ben Mee could be back on Friday against you boys. So that would be massive for us. Because
definitely.
We were poor at the back every single game this season, apart from West Brom, but it's West Brom. So, I could have probably defended well against them. And Tottenham. But every single other game, we've been absolutely shite. Against Chelsea, we were shite. We weren't picking men up. We conceded a corner against fucking Chelsea. Zuma scored a corner. Yeah. That doesn't happen to Burnley. So fingers crossed, Ben Mee gets back in his side on Friday, and we get our captain back, and it's perfect. But apart from that,
how long has Ben Mee been out for?
Well, he picked up an injury. Now, this is a bit of a debate we have on the podcast. He picked up an injury late last season, towards the end of last season. I think we beat Palace at Palace, and then, which I assume you'll have enjoyed. But then he didn't really play much after that. And the rumour, or Dyche said he had a thigh injury. However, he did have a premature baby girl, and she's been in hospital ever since then, until about a couple of weeks ago. And now that just happened to coincide with his injury. Now, I always put this out there and say I am just playing devil's advocate. I do know nothing. I'm just saying that it could be something to do with that. However, he's obviously had to build his fitness back up and stuff. And Sean Dyche said today in his press conference, obviously the day of recording this is Wednesday, that there's no injury there and he is available for selection on Friday. I keep saying Saturday. Yeah. So fingers crossed he's back. But yeah, he's been out for a while. So he will be a little bit rusty. But with the way that we defend and stuff, it's quite deep. It's a low block. It's compact. So fingers crossed. It's like riding a bike for Ben Mee. We need Ben Mee and Tarky back, because we're starting the season with Kevin Long and Jimmy Dunn. And I like Jimmy Dunn. I think he's going to be a good player eventually. I just don't think he's quite there yet. And as for Kevin Long, I think he's mid-table Championship at best. And again, I think he showed that against Chelsea. So fingers crossed Ben Mee's back, and we can push on from there with that, really. Nice. But yeah, Dale Stephens. Let's talk about Dale Stephens then, because he's one of them. When we signed him, we wanted him several years ago, and obviously there's the moment he started chanting "Who the fuck are Burnley" or whatever it were. The year you got promoted, which was a year after us. I'd like to add. But it's one of them. Like he's left you because he's probably. Is it because he's not good enough, or is it because he doesn't fit your style?
Definitely. I think the first point you made there, look, I'm not going to come here and sort of blast him or say shit or anything like that. Like he was an incredible servant for us, especially during the Championship years. He was incredible, great player, and he's still a okay. I don't want to go as far as good. He's still okay. Like he's not totally shit, but he's not. I'll be honest with you. I don't think he's good enough anymore for even probably bottom half Prem. I think he's a top Championship player. That's just my personal opinion. Like I said, he was great for us. He served us really well. He fitted us. He suited our style of play. And it was nothing about Potter coming in and whatever. It was just simply we were getting better quality players in that midfield. Like now, if you compare him to what we've got now, they're just levels above. And he was just getting a bit sloppy. Like even I think he played a game. What was it? I think it was a couple of games ago. I think it was the game before he left, I think, to go to you guys. And he just looked sloppy. He looked disinterested. And I don't know if that was because he felt like his time was up, maybe. And that was just, that's just recently. But he just looked a bit slow, off the pace, not really, with it, with regards to the pace of the Premier League anymore. It's just a big shame. And I'm not going to come here and just blast him all the time because he was a great player. But I just feel like he's now going down that road of, down the career of sort of, maybe taking a step lower, going down to the champ and being the top sort of Championship player. But I don't know what you guys have thought. I don't know how he's played for you guys, to be honest. But yeah.
Dog shit, man. Absolute dog shit. I've not rated him at all. If you look at Ashley Westwood, and again, he's another player that doesn't get the praise he deserves outside of Burnley Football Club, but he's a class act in that middle of that park. And Josh Brownhill as well. He's a different sort of player. Josh Brownhill's a forward-thinking midfield player. Like Josh Brownhill will go forward, whereas Westy and Dale Stephens are very similar. So when you have a midfield two of Ashley Westwood and Dale Stephens, we are we have no creativity whatsoever.
Yeah.
And you
He's
think,
very much
okay,
sort of
well, we might be
sideways
solid
player,
at the
isn't he?
back. Yeah, exactly. So you think, all right, we might be quite solid defensively, but for whatever reason, we haven't been either. I don't rate him in the slightest, but I'm the same as you. I don't want to sit here and just slag him off. I do sort of like think it's going to be difficult for him. He's coming to a club where, at the minute, the future of the chairman's up in the air. The future of our Premier League status is up in the air. All the results have been negative so far this season. Even the draw at West Brom, obviously it's against West Brom. We should be winning that. A club who finished 10th in the Premier League.
We've done the same,
season.
mate. We've done the same. So
yeah. But it's so far I've got to be honest, I do not rate him, but I don't want to sit here and slag him off. Like I said, I want to give him time, but so far he's not been good enough.
That's the thing. I think sort of you mentioned about the whole, playing with Westwood in that sort of hole. That's the thing. He won't. So he's not amazing defensively, and he's not very good going forward. So he's very much, he loves a little side pass. He'll keep you ticking, and that's, I suppose that was the beauty of him. In the right system, he'll just keep he'll get the ball, lay it off. He won't do anything incredible. He won't make that cutting edge pass, or he won't be your N'Golo Kante with all that energy. I'm sort of running out of good things to say about him, but he does. He's just that basic player with regards to what you're getting, but at the same time, he doesn't really offer much, which is a bit of a weird thing to say. But no, my honest opinion is he's a sort of top level championship player. He's not a Premier League player, in my opinion. And so I was very surprised when he went to Burnley, and quite happy that you guys signed him, to be honest, because I thought, I don't know what they're playing at, but if they're going to pay money for him, then take him off our hands, because his wages was quite high as well, I think. So
were they?
Not
see us
like
paying him a
crazy,
lot of money.
No, not crazy, but I think it was like still a considerable wedge. To get off the wage bill was quite nice, I think.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
But yeah, we're a bit. I agree. So it's the only signing we made this summer, and so far it's been absolutely abysmal.
If your marquee signing is Dale Stephens, I think there's going to be problems. To be honest,
if your marquee signing is Dale Stephens, you deserve to be bottom of the Premier League.
Yeah, I didn't want to say it. I didn't want to say it. Yeah, I didn't want to say it, but yeah, I think that's.
But yeah, that's exactly why we are bottom of the Premier League. It's no money. Well, we do have money. We're refusing to spend it because of the takeover. No apparent scouting system whatsoever, because like you look at you boys, like finding Lamptey, and look at Brentford finding all these quality players.
I was just about to say
we literally just signed people from the Championship, or this season people from teams in the Premier League that aren't playing anymore.
I was just going to ask you that, actually. So yeah, that actually is a great point you make. Is what with regards to your scouting system? Because with all due respect, like, have you produced anyone has anyone come through the academy that you can say, oh, he's Burnley, not born and bred, but like he's been produced in Burnley, and he's Dwight McNeil, is it
Dwight McNeil's one? Yeah.
Dwight McNeil's one. But like with regards to your setup and your scouting system, it seems like is it good? Is it any good, or do you have
it doesn't look like it's very good. I don't know what it is. Obviously, I don't work at the club, so I don't know what goes on at the club. But it looks like it is a case of you drive to the other end of the M62, you go to Leeds and you have a look at Leeds and see if Leeds are doing well. But now Leeds are in the Premier League, there's nothing we can do. Obviously, we signed Chris Wood from Leeds, we signed Charlie Taylor from Leeds, we signed Bailey Peacock-Farrell from Leeds. It became a running joke for a few years, like, the scouts, they only get like 20 quid worth of petrol, so they can drive to Leeds and back. That's all they do. But
they're doing a Bielsa over the
over whatever Leeds' training ground is called. I forgot it now. But yeah, it's one of them. It doesn't look like it's very good. It obviously needs improving. From the outside looking in, you'd say it needs improving. Because like you say, like Brentford finding these players from abroad and stuff, and you got you boys finding Lamptey.
Well, it's this. I think it's Brentford. They got the black box. Have you heard about this? It's like a scout. So it's basically, I think it's called the black. Well, I might be just chatting shit, but basically it's a system where they collate. So it's all based off on stats. So they literally have like a database where they collect all these this information on young players, and they just build up this incredible database, sort of like the Football Manager database. And they build up this like crazy database where they base it all purely on stats. So I think it's like the film Is it Moneyball? I think the film's called. Where the team, I think it was a baseball team. So they based every decision in terms of bringing players in based on stats alone. And I think Brentford have a very similar sort of method in their recruitment. So they'll literally see who's been banging in goals, or who's got great defensive records, whatever it might be, whatever they're looking for. They'll do it all based on stats, and I think that's what they base it. And a lot of clubs are going down that angle. And I think Brighton have not the same method, but they have an element of analytics where they'll look at all that kind of things stats wise, and then send out scouts to have a look at them, and then it goes from there. So it's a very interesting sort of system that teams like Brentford and I believe Watford do the same. Hence why they've got all these sort of Brazilian wonder kids, because they have this like nutty database which basically tells them who to go after. So it's very interesting. And it'd be interesting if you guys get your hands on one of those boxes.
It's one of them, innit? Like it's. I'm not sure how well that actually. Obviously, Brentford's a positive example of how it can work. Watford's probably not so much at the minute. Obviously, relegated last season, so it's one of them. Like, does stat-based recruitment work? It might do for some. It might not do for others. I guess it depends. I just like good old-fashioned scouts that know what they're talking about and watch a lot of games. I don't know whether we do that or not.
To be fair, I think at this stage, and I speak for both of us, I think you'll take anything at this stage, right?
Like I just said, I'd take a good championship player at the minute. I don't understand why we weren't in for Matty Cash, people like that, or Watkins and stuff like that. Obviously, both of them went to Villa. I know Villa have got a lot of money. I know Villa have got a lot of money, so they could have probably just priced us out. Who knows? But maybe that's where it's going for Burnley.
But this is the thing, though. You talk about championship recruitment. Nowadays, you're paying 25 million, nearly 30 million for a championship player. So it's not even like you're going to the championship and picking up someone for 4 or 5 million anymore. Like we paid 20 million for Webster. We paid 25, I think it was, for Mope, and then they were asking 30 for Watkins and 30 for Benrahma. It's just like, okay, championship players, you can't go to the championship anymore and try and pick up someone for 5 million. I mean, you probably could, but you won't be getting anything good, really. So,
it's one of them. I think the Premier League, because teams like Villa, teams like Leeds have come up with a lot of money who are going to throw the money about, and Fulham to an extent. I think it's got a little bit too far in front of Burnley. I think that's a problem. Because our owner. I say only, but he's only worth 60 million quid, and he is easily the poorest. Not the word I would like to use, but in this term, it's factually correct. Owner in the Premier League. So I think even you boys have got someone with like a few billion quid behind you.
Tony Bloom. I think it's worth about 900 million or something. Yeah, he's.
That's what I mean. It's ridiculous. I think it's you, Sheffield United, and us that are the only teams. Now you mention it, that don't have an owner who's worth billions. Like every other owner is worth at least £1 billion, whereas ours is worth 60 million.
Yeah, well, you look at Wolves. Like I'd say, in terms of sort of fan base and structure, city-wide, obviously being sort of more sort of Midlands up north, I'd say, Wolves. Why could you not be comparing yourselves to Wolves? But then you look at their owner, who's worth what, 1.7 billion or something ridiculous. So it just doesn't leave any clubs in good stead when they're competing against clubs that are worth 2 billion, whatever it might be. So it's just getting all a bit mental at the moment. But what can you do?
And that's why the takeover, as much as some Burnley fans don't want it to happen, does need to happen, because I think Burnley have grown so much in the last 10, 15 years, especially the last 5 or 6 anyway, qualifying for Europe, 2 top 10 Premier League finishes. We've outgrown the current chairman, so we do need some fresh blood in, or some fresh investment, definitely. But that is obviously for a Burnley debate podcast. But we'll start wrapping it up, because I've had you for 49 minutes now. Obviously, we weren't chatting about anything for the first 10. So if you are watching this on YouTube, it'll just be 30 minutes to you. But I've had him for a long time now, so I'll let him go. I'll just quickly get your predictions for the game then, because it's one of them. We need to win. You could do with a win, but it's one of them. If you win, you've got 7 points. So you look at 7 points after 8 games for you. I think it's not a bad return for. So well, I think you will agree with me. I'm always survive relegation first, then push on. I think Brighton are probably a similar sort of ambition.
No, definitely. Like, I think we don't want to get too ahead of ourselves as Brighton fans. We don't. I'm very sort of realistic, and I know that we're not a top 10 team, for example, but at the same in saying that, I think we are good enough now with the squad that we've got and the manager that we've got, that we should be comfortably avoiding relegation. We shouldn't be in a relegation scrap, in my opinion. But unfortunately, at the moment, it looks like we are going to be, which is nothing. It's not what us fans want. But to be so. For example, if let's say we do beat you on Friday, we'll be on 8 points after eight games. 8 games, 8 points after 8 games, which is not disastrous. But then you look down the table and see, for example, that'll leave you on 1 point. That's quite a big gap already.
Exactly.
So Yeah, it won't be disastrous. So we spoke about this on our pod as well. Like, the implications if we lose or whatever it might be. If we lose against you guys or draw, it's not the end of the world, because I think one of the chaps made a really good point. It's like we're only not 8 games in. It's not. We still got a long way to go. A lot of teams to play. But again, this is with all due respect, and I'm sure you'll say the same about us. If we want to stay in the Premier League, we have to be beating Burnley. And that's just I'm sure you feel the same. If you guys want to stay in the Premier League, you have to beat us. So that's how I see it. It would be amazing if we won, but not the end of the world if we did get a draw or lost. But of course, it'll be a huge hammer blow considering you guys are below us. And I think you'd cut down. Well, you'd be on 4 points, we'd be on 5. So but I see my prediction. So going back to the original point, my prediction, I genuinely think it'll be a draw. I think it'll be a score draw, 1-1, but potentially maybe a 2-1 win. So I don't see us losing, but there we go. I might have jinxed it. I don't know how about you? How do you see it going?
Well, honestly, mate, I were going to say draw as well, but I were going to say 0-0 because we don't create anything at all. Like against Chelsea, I might be wrong factually, but I think we had a couple of long-range efforts, but there's no clear-cut chances. Like, you can count the amount of clear-cut chances we've had this season on one hand. It's ridiculous. Obviously, we scored the goal against Newcastle, which was a long-range effort, so not a clear-cut chance. Chris Wood had 2 against West Brom. So as far as I remember, just off the top of my head, again, apologies if I got this wrong. I'm sure someone will tell me if I have. They're the only 2 clear-cut chances that we've created in 6 games, because obviously we didn't play in the first week. We've only played 6 times. So they're the only 2 chances that we've actually created all season, which is just not good enough. So something needs to change. But with Ben Mee being back, I think we'll be quite solid at the back as well.
No, definitely. Well, one thing I did forget to mention, actually, when you asked me about team news, one big thing that has just literally popped into my head, and I don't know how I could have forgot. We're actually missing Lewis Dunk, so it's his final game of suspension. So that's actually another big sort of plus point for you guys. So defensively, that's why I think it'll be a score draw, because defensively we've not been great. And obviously Ashley Barnes, being an ex-Brighton player, I can see him sort of coming back to haunt us, which is one of my nightmares. And
Chris Wood, of course, an ex-Brighton player.
And Chris Wood, of course, yeah. So the 2 boys up front, I'm sure they want to make an impact.
It's one of them for me. It's Chris Wood. I do like him. A lot of Burnley fans, I don't know if he were the same at Brighton, but because he turns faster than Milk turns faster than him is what I'm saying. Yeah. When he's got the ball at his feet, he turns like a submarine, doesn't he? He's very, very slow. But in an actual sprint race, he's actually quite fast. But a lot of Burnley fans give him a lot of stick because of his style of play. I don't know if it was the same at Brighton, but I always found myself defending Chris Wood. However, I'm at the stage now where this season he has been quite poor. But Ashley Barnes has been even worse. So I think for me this week, I think Ashley Barnes is now, we love him at Burnley, and it's just the way he plays. Like how he don't give a fuck, and he's flying into challenges. He's using his elbow. Love it, absolutely love it. If he leaves one on Ben White, for example, like obviously you boys are like disgrace. We'll be like, well done, Barnes. That's how you do it. But it's one of them. I think I still like him for that, but I just think he's not good enough now. I think for me, Chris Wood and Jay Rodriguez, who's another academy product. Obviously, you mentioned that earlier. I think them 2 up front for me. It's one of them. I think hopefully we get a goal against you, and hopefully it's a Chris Wood header, because he needs it. He really, really needs. He's a confidence player.
But it's the thing. Like that partnership for me, like last season, it was incredible. Well, I don't know how incredible it was, but from my sort of perspective, they just seem to be worked together like really, really well. They played really well together, and they're just when you see last season. Went through like a bit of a mad run. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think they went through like a 5-10 game spell where they were just on fire. They were on flames. And like I remember sort of seeing that. Like, okay, I would love to have that partnership up top. So I still feel like that. Obviously, I haven't watched them much this season, so maybe that's why I've got a bit of a warped perception. But on their day, I think they can really hurt teams. So.
It's one of them with them 2. Jay's been a little bit injured, but he has been back for a couple of weeks, but. Daesh is very stubborn. He doesn't drop players unless basically they have an absolute shocker. A perfect example of that is how we kept Joe Hart in the nets a couple of seasons ago, the year we struggled in the first half of the season because of the Europa League. And he just wouldn't drop him. And everyone's like, mate, he's shit. Drop him. Get Tom Eaton back in the net. And as soon as we dropped Drouart and put Tom Heaton in there, we shot up the fucking league. And it's the same now with Ashley Barnes and stuff up top. We love him, but a lot of Burnley fans are saying, right, stop putting Dale Stevens in the middle. That's number one. Get Josh Brown in the middle. If Goodmanson's injured, stick Brady on the right, Dwight on the left, and up top, Chris Wood and Jay Rodriguez. Because if you want a ball to fall to anybody in the box, it's Chris Wood. I know he's been a little bit poor this season, so someone's going to put in the comments now, but he's shit. But if you want it to fall to anybody, he's one of the best finishers I've seen at this club in the last 10 years, probably barring Danny Ings. I'm Charlie Austin, obviously. But he's absolutely class. But as going back to the original question, fingers crossed it's 1-1. Well, fingers crossed it's 5-0, obviously. But well, fingers crossed it's 1-1. But I'm thinking it's going to be. I think it's going to be 0-0.
I think if we're both being honest, we both in our heads are like, right, we're gonna win this game. But
honestly,
then
I'm being honest. No, we've been that shit this season. Then no, last season when we played you at the turf at the end of last season, I was like, right, we're going to finish 10th. Brighton are about 15th, 16th. We should be putting these to bed, and obviously you boys beat us. I tell you,
that was a bit of a nothing game, to be honest, wasn't it? Last game of the season.
It was, yeah. It was one of them.
I think.
Oh, yeah. I think I always cast my mind back to that Burnley Brighton game at the Amex a couple of seasons ago when we were in the relegation zone. I think it was around February time, and we were playing in the black kit, which I was going to wear actually, simply because of that game, but I can't find it, which is a shame. But we were about 17th, sorry, it's about 18th. I think you were about 14th, 15th, and you had a decent season. Houghton was still there, obviously. And I was going into that game, and every Burnley fan were like, "Oh no, Brighton, they're doing well this season." I was like, you know what? I weirdly have a very good. Very optimistic about this game. And obviously, we went there and went 3-0 up. Obviously, you got the consolation, and we won 3-1. So if I was being honest, I would say then, I think we can beat you.
Yeah,
but this season, no.
Like I said earlier as well, it's one of those games where if we're being brutally honest, both set of fans are saying this is a must-win game, or this is a game that if we want to be in the Premier League, if we want to be a Premier League team, we have to be beating Burnley. And I'm sure, like I said, I'm sure you guys say the same about us. So it's just one of those things where it feels like a must-win, but then if you really deep it, it's not. I think
it's not for you. I think it's not for you. And a few Burnley fans have said on a post that I put out this week saying there's no such thing as a must-win 7 games into the Premier League. But as you mentioned earlier, you're on 6 points. Did you say? Sorry, 5 points.
Yeah, we're on 5 at the moment. Yeah.
Yeah. So if you win that, you're on 8. So then we're on 1 point. So that's a 7-point gap already to a team. Again, as you say, no disrespect to you. That a team that for us, we should be above if we want to be in the Premier League. So it's one of them. We can't. It's a must not lose. 100%. It is a must not lose for us. I think you can lose it. I think you can lose it. So I think you should just lose it.
I wasn't expecting that, but no, that probably threw me off there. I mean, I can't control that. It's all down to Potter. I'm sure he probably will somehow mess it up. But no, I think if I'm being brutally honest, I feel confident just because of sort of the performance against Spurs. I thought we looked quite decent, considering, I was saying to my colleague who's a Spurs fan, Spurs really in reality you should be battering us 5-0 every day of the week. With that squad you've got, you should be going to that game absolutely battering us. So the fact that we only lost 2-1 to a dodgy decision, a couple of dodgy decisions, then I take quite a lot from that, and hoping that we can really, I just want us to show, as a Brighton fan, I just want us to show that we are not just this pretty team and we look good on the eye, but we can actually get results as well and actually score goals and keep clean sheets. It's just, I know, I feel like it's one of those things where I know we've got potential, but it's just realising it. So see what happens.
See what happens indeed. It should be a good game. It's a shame it's on pay-per-view on Friday at R5.
I know,
it's one of them. We all have perfectly legal streaming devices that will all plug into our TVs and watch it anyway. That's all. I'm not saying anything more on the matter. So we'll all watch it somehow, even if we are at work in my case. But like I said, I've got to wrap it up here because you've been on here for an hour now. You've been on here for an hour. That's only around 50 minutes of a show, which is...
I bored you all for about an hour. So,
well, I did say to you, didn't now before we started recording that it's good that me and you seem to have this sort of like banter, because I knew it'd just go on. It's quite easy. Like the Spurs one, I loved it. The Newcastle one, I loved it. But at times you could sort of like feel that the conversation was dying a bit. Whereas with this one, I feel like I've had to just sort of like halt it. So please check Maz out and his podcast and his socials on Twitter. It's at Seagulls Social. Do you have anything else? YouTube? Or...
Seagulls Social on Instagram and Twitter, and YouTube as well. If you guys want to subscribe, I'm sure you don't want to, but if you want to, check us out. But yeah, no, any support, and it'd be great. It'd be great to. I was saying off air, wasn't I, to you? It'd be great to have you on our podcast for the return leg, and yeah, get your views on how. Hopefully by then things are going well for both of us. Hopefully, so
yeah, hopefully by then we're like what 14th, and you're. You can be 15th. You can be just underneath.
Yeah, cheers, mate. Appreciate it.
But I'm a bit honestly. I know you say like no disrespect to Burnley, and I'll say the same to you now. Like if we get beat now, and it's not because it's Brighton, it's because of it will be the 6th defeat of the season already. But if we get beat on Friday, I am pressing that panic button, mate. I am gonna slam that panic button right down. I'm like, that's it. We need a change. Something needs to happen.
You're gonna be doing AFTV, aren't you? Just like
I'm gonna go full Claude.
It's time to go.
Yeah, full Claude. Yeah, I'm gonna be doing that honestly. But anyway, like I said, Maz, massive thank you for coming on. I've really enjoyed it. And, all the best of luck for the season, except on Friday.
Thank you. Yeah, exactly the same to you guys. No, really, thank you very much for having me on. It's been great, and good luck for the season, guys.
Thank you.